Hello everyone, so I have part 2 of the Make It Junk Mail Journaling series of videos I'm putting out, and I'm going to make some tags using some of these pieces, this card from this junk mail, and I'm actually having to split it into another third part because I had so many of these cards, and so there will be another video coming where I make more journaling cards and ephemera. For this first one, I have to start by first covering up that junk mail advertising portion of it, and I've sped this up quite a bit. And in the other video, you'll see I use multiple techniques for doing this. For this video, it's our second part, I'm using glue stick to adhere down some of this tissue paper that came in Your Creative Studio subscription box, and I'm using gesso, which is a great product for making it non-porous, turning it into non-porous, and then also just kind of toning back whatever the pattern is so that it's more seamless and all goes together. I'm using these papers that came in the latest Your Creative Studio box it's kind of sea themed, and I'm just collaging onto this side of the card so that I have a background, and I'm trying to make a lovely, beautiful background and just mixing it up and tearing them in different places. I liked that torn edge, and then I just want it to be cohesive in the end. And I don't mind if there's a tiny bit of white space showing, because that is going to be okay anyway. But I don't want any of the text from the mail showing, and I don't want any large gaps. So continuing on here, I'm just going to tear up the pieces pretty much randomly. This is a very forgiving method, and if you don't end up loving it, you can always cover it up with some more gesso and keep going and add on. So I'm adding a little bit of gesso here. I like the look of it, so I don't want to cover up too much. I did add a little bit of water to thin it out and spread it out. I just want it to kind of blend together and come together a little more as a background. Now, another item from that same Your Creative Studio box I'm using is this tissue paper. And I'm just putting that right on top of the the branded Your Creative Studio tissue paper. I'm not going to use all of it, but I want to just add a little more, and there's a little bit of show through of the junk mail surface with just the one tissue, and so this way, I'm taking it back just a little more. And again, I'm kind of randomly tearing. I do love the imagery though that is on the Your Creative Studio tissue, like that vintage teapot, and I just covered it up right here, but some of it I want to show through. Now I have this little ceramic dish here, and it had some ink powder or something in it, and I mixed some of my gesso and water with it, and I'm okay with that green tinge. I could have cleaned it out, but I thought, that green color is almost ocean sea-like, and so it went with this particular set of ephemera and supplies that I was using this time around, so I didn't even bother cleaning it. I just let it have that green hue, and this is kind of how it starts out looking. And now I'm going to cut down that card into smaller pieces. So I'm making about like 4 tags here. 2 of the tags are slightly wider, and then 2 are a little more narrow. And just kind of flipping around and trying to figure out which side I want to be the top, or which orientation I want to be the top, because I'm going to give them a little more tag edge here. I have this, one of my favorite little punches. It's so easy to use, and it just chops the corner off, and so it's easily done with scissors, but I happen to have it, so I love it. And then a corner rounder here for the wider ones. I'm just gonna pick the top edge and just round the top corners on the 2 wider tags. And now this is sort of just the base, and now I can kind of decorate it and embellish it a little further. So I have my favorite Distress ink vintage photo that I just get grunge up the edges a bit. And then I brought in the sticker set that came with this subscription box, and just used one little sticker seashell, and then these are the 2 stamps that I got. Now the subscription box came with 4 stamps, but unfortunately I was not a lucky one there, and I got 2 duplicate. So I got 2 of these seashell, and I got 2 of this lighthouse, but I did not get the other two stamps, which I don't even want to mention what they are because I won't be getting them. They basically gave me a $5 off coupon or something, but they couldn't send me the stamps. So sadly, I don't have them and I won't ever have them. So I'm using what I have here. And then I'm pulling out my Distress Oxide Black Soot, and this I end up using a lot and also in the next video as well. Because there's a little bit of black accents, and so I really like that just little bit of extra black that it brings in and ties in the sticker that has a lot of black in it, and then some of the text in the background. And this is pretty much, I think, where I end up with this tag. And sometimes with the vintage photo, you can really bring out the torn edges and accent that, give it more of that distressed look. So that's why I really like using that. And it's one of my first steps once I get into the details of a tag. So here I am going in again, and I sometimes just do a little on the edge, and then this time I went all over with it. And I like how it brings out the variation in the texture and in the patterns. So I'm just accenting that here with this ink. So going in and adding more and more until I'm happy with it. And again on the edges. And then I decide I'm going to go in with that lighthouse stamp again. This time I'm going to do the whole, well, most of the whole stamp. The other time I just kind of picked the top part of it and pressed that down. It came off my block, but they're such beautifully detailed stamps. I love how they turn out. And I'm using some archival waterproof ink. Now I have this already stamped out paper full of sentiments, and so I just thought, and I have a little box of words and things, and that's where I have that stored. So I'm just cutting out the word hopeful because for some reason the lighthouse just says hopeful to me. And so I'm going to hold it down with my little tool here because I don't want that white. There's no other white in my piece, so I want to just get it nice and vintage photo looking with my ink. And yeah, definitely I've got inky fingers in this whole video and gesso all over, but you know, eventually I wash up. So then I'm going to add a little bit of glue here and place this down. I'm using my tweezers because it's so tiny, otherwise I'd have to glue all over myself. And I'm going to place that down in the bottom, and it's just a nice little sentiment to go on this tag, and I think that finishes this one off. I'm not sure if I add a little oxide, I guess I don't. So the other two tags, I'm going to start again with the vintage photo. These are the slightly more narrow tags that I chopped the corners off of, and I'm just going in and picking areas to accent with that vintage photo and kind of give it just a more distressed and vintage look with that. And it kind of hides the fact that it's got this dusting of gesso as well, because then the vintage photo kind of covers the gesso. And some of my paper does sometimes come off. I just add a little more glue there and press it down if there wasn't something that got sealed well enough. And so this pair I think I'm kind of doing in tandem. But first I'm going to punch a hole because I'm going to use an eyelet for this tag. And when I put this piece in a journal, I probably will add some ribbons or something at that point. But I'm leaving it with just the eyelet right now because then I can personalize it even further for whatever journal I end up putting it in. And this is how this one ends up. And finally we have the last one here, which I decide maybe I could use these Post-it notes from that same box of supplies from your creative studio. They're all themed in that kind of seashell theme, so that it was great to work together with those things. So if you have a paper pad that's themed, you can use that, and it's just really easy because everything already goes together. So I'm using my glue stick again to place this down. I already have a beautiful background on the tag that I'd done earlier. And I'm doing this mainly, I just want to have some more writing space on this tag. And so since the Post-it is sort of set up as a writing space, it's got that built-in writing space and it's got that just beautiful color. I love that. So I'm going to trim off the excess here. And then I have the issue of, well, how do I incorporate it in a little more so it doesn't look like I just stuck this on top? In comes a little watered down gesso. My brush was just staying wet so it didn't dry out before I had a chance to clean it properly. You definitely want to clean the brush thoroughly and properly if you're using gesso. because yeah, it's permanent. And then I go ahead on top of that and add some more of the vintage photo. And yeah, it doesn't look out of place any longer. And again, I'm going to put an eyelet in through here and a little bit of the black soot on this one. And this is how it turns out. I believe at this point, I'm going to bring in, yes, all four for you to have a close look. I hope you enjoy seeing this process. My next video, part 3, will be quite a bit longer, and it has quite a few more cards to share. But I thought it would be just a better break to set these ones separately and then just do a third part. So catch me later with that one. I have a bit of editing to do before I can put that out, but it should be, as soon as I can get it done, I'll have it out there for you. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful creative day. Bye!